history is not written in ink, it is carved in steel, in Westeros. The greatest lie ever told is that of ownership. We name our blades. We dress them in ancestral pride. We claim they belong to our bloodlines for eternity. But Valyrian steel belongs to no one. It is a witness to avarice, a cold, sentient medium through which power flows. When you wrap your fingers around that cold hilt, you are not mastering it. You are merely another fleeting host in its long, bloody journey. Today, we trace the footsteps of these predators. We deconstruct the lineage of the great blades to see how they dismantle dynasties and how they reshape the ruins. To understand the weapon, you must first erase your understanding of metal. Valyrian steel is not ore, it is a curse. It was forged in dragonfire and baptized in blood, beneath the shadow of forbidden spells. Before the doom, every ripple in the grain records a sacrifice. Every fold traps a soul. This is why it weighs heavier than a crown. This is why it never yields to the rot of time. It does not serve its master. It selects its reaper. It grants the bearer a sense of divinity, an illusion of deciding life and death in a heartbeat. But remember, steel has no loyalty. Its only purpose is to find the next, stronger hand. When the blood runs thin, when the grip begins to tremble, the steel seeks a new exit. In the hands of Aegon the Conqueror, Blackfyre was more than a bastard sword. It was a theological argument made of dark ripples and sharp edges. It whispered that the right to rule was not found in ancient scrolls, but in the strength to hold the world by its throat. But symbols are volatile. When King Aegon the Unworthy chose to bestow Blackfyre upon his bastard son Daemon, he did not just give him a gift. He handed him a match to a forest of dry resentment. By choosing the warrior over the heir, the king declared that the sword carried the crown rather than the crown commanding the sword. Blackfyre thus became the steel heart of 5 rebellions. It transformed from a tool of unification into a catalyst for fratricide. It proved that in the Game of Thrones, a relic can be a more potent claimant than a son. To this day, Blackfyre remains a ghost, a lost sovereign waiting in the shadows of Essos. It is a silent promise that as long as the blade exists, the dragon's reign is never truly extinguished, nor is it ever truly safe. Then there is Dark Sister, the slender, lethal companion to the king's heavy steel. If Blackfyre was the thunder of the Targaryen storm, Dark Sister was the lightning, precise, crucial, devastating. She was forged for a woman's hand, yet she tasted more blood than most conquerors. From Visenya to the Rogue Prince, and finally to Bloodraven, she moved through history like a needle, stitching together a tapestry of necessary cruelties. But where is the sister now? Lost beyond the wall, swallowed by the eternal winter and the roots of the weirwood. Like the house she served, she has vanished into the realm of myth, leaving behind a world that is colder and far more vulnerable. These 2 blades teach us a singular, grim lesson. A dynasty is not built on blood alone. It is built on the precarious balance of who holds the steel and who is merely standing in its shadow. If Blackfyre was a dragon's breath caught in steel, then ice was the silence of the north. For centuries, it was not a weapon of war, but a tool of duty. It was the physical manifestation of the Stark ethos, that the man who passes the sentence must swing the sword. Ice was wide, heavy, and as cold as the heart of a winter storm. It did not seek the spotlight of attorney. It preferred the grim dampness of the executioner's block. But justice is a fragile thing when the wolves are surrounded by lions. When Ilyn Payne raised ice above Eddard Stark's head, the sword was forced to betray its own bloodline. A tool of northern honor became the instrument of northern extinction. In that single, terrible stroke, the ancestral soul of House Stark was decapitated. But the desecration did not end with a death. It began with a furnace. Tywin Lannister knew that he could never truly own the North, so he decided to harvest it. He took the massive blade, the pride of 500 years, and committed the ultimate act of alchemy. He melted it down. He tried to dye the steel Lannister crimson, but the Valyrian ripples resisted the pigment. They remained dark, stubborn, reminding the world that, even in liquid form, the North does not forget. From the corpse of ice, 2 monstrosities were born. Widows Wail and Oathkeeper. One was given to a boy king who knew nothing of courage, the other to a kingslayer who was searching for his soul. Tywin believed he had multiplied his power, but he had only diluted the legacy. He turned a symbol of singular justice into two fragments of stolen vanity. Widow's Wail, a name that tastes like copper and cruelty. It sat on the hip of Joffrey Baratheon, a blade of immense value held by a creature of no worth. And Oathkeeper, given to Jaime Lannister, who eventually understood that the only way to honor a stolen sword was to give it away. Ice was gone, but its fragments began to weave a new, unexpected history. They prove that you can shatter a blade. You can melt its form, but you cannot command the direction of its vengeance. Size is a poor metric for malice. If ice was a mountain, the Catspaw Dagger was a splinter in the eye of the world. It is a wicked sliver of dragon bone and Valyrian steel, small enough to be hidden in a sleeve, but sharp enough to slit the throat of an empire. For centuries, this blade was a ghost in the royal treasury, a footnote in the Targaryen inventory, until it was plucked from the darkness to do the unthinkable. It was sent to end the life of a broken boy in Winterfell, a clumsy attempt at mercy, or a calculated spark for a wildfire. It failed to kill Bran Stark, but it succeeded in murdering the peace of the realm. This single dagger became the ultimate engine of gaslighting. It was passed from Peter Baelish to Catelyn Stark, a poisonous gift that convinced a mother to start a war. It moved through the hands of kings and master manipulators. Always silent, always thirsting, the dagger is a master of irony. It was the weapon that started the War of the Five Kings. Yet it was also the weapon that ended the Long Night. It travelled from the hand of an assassin to the hip of a master of coin, and finally into the grip of a girl with no name when Arya Stark plunged it into the heart of the Night King. The circle was closed. The blade that was meant to kill a Stark boy ended up saving the world under the command of a Stark girl. It proves that the smallest relics often carry the heaviest fate. It is not just a knife, it is a needle, threading through the hearts of the powerful, pulling the strings of prophecy until the knot is tied. Not every blade finds its way back to the hearth. Some are born to wander. Consider Longclaw, the ancestral pride of House Mormont, a bastard sword that was never meant for a bastard's hand. It was carried by Jorah Mormont, a man who traded his lordship for the cold austerity of the Wall. When his own son, Jorah, fled in disgrace, he left the steel behind. The sword became a ghost in Castle Black, a relic of a failed lineage, until it found Jon Snow. This was a radical shift in the theology of steel. Jorah did not give the sword to a kinsman. He gave it to a man he deemed worthy. He replaced the bear on the pommel with a wolf, a literal metamorphosis. It signaled that in the face of extinction, merit outranks blood. Longclaw ceased to be a Mormont heirloom. It became the Fang of the North. It proved its worth not in the courts of kings, but in the shivering silence of the Great War. Then there is Heartsbane, the massive two-handed burden of House Tarly. For 500 years it hung above a mantle, a symbol of father-to-son legacy that became a cage for Samwell Tarly. His father, Randall, saw the sword as a test of masculinity that Samwell could never pass. To Randall, the steel was the man, but Samwell understood a deeper truth. A sword is only as useful as the heart of the one who wields it. He stole his own inheritance. He took Heartsbane not out of greed, but out of necessity. He recognized that a relic rotting in a hall is an insult to the metal. He eventually passed it to Jorah Mormont, a man seeking redemption. In that moment, two displaced legacies collided. A Tarly sword in a Mormont hand, fighting for a Targaryen queen. It was the ultimate deconstruction of rightful ownership. The steel didn't care about the name on the deed. It only cared about the White Walkers. It was destined to shatter. These blades tell us that the truest lineage is not found in the womb. It is found in the shared resolve of those who stand against the dark. For every blade that stands in the light of history, there is another that has been swallowed by the dark. The geography of Valyrian steel is a map of tragedy and sudden disappearance. Take Lamentation, the pride of House Royce. It did not fall on a heroic battlefield. It was lost in the frantic, claustrophobic carnage of the Dragon Pit, a masterpiece of the Forge. ripped from a dying hand and buried under the rubble of a collapsing dynasty. It remains there still, a silent prisoner of the earth. Then there is Brightraw, the golden dream of House Lannister. King Tommen II sailed for Valyria to find glory. He found only the fog. The loss of Brightraw was the ultimate psychological wound for the Lions of Casterly Rock. It proved that all the gold in the world cannot buy back a soul once it has been surrendered to the sea. But not all lost blades are buried. Some are merely waiting in the wrong hands. Consider Red Rain, now held by House Drum of the Iron Islands. They did not forge it. They did not inherit it. A Drum ancestor simply took it from a surprised knight with a wooden cudgel. It is a blade of crimson ripples, likely a stolen relic of House Rain. Its current existence is a taunt, a reminder that in a world of violence, ownership is merely a temporary grip on a hilt. And Lady Forlorn, the elegant sorrow of House Corbray. It is a blade that has tasted the blood of kings and rebels alike. It stays in the Vale, a sharp, relentless shadow waiting for a conflict worthy of its edge. These displaced relics are the loose threads of history. They are the wild cards in the Game of Thrones, waiting for a scavenger, a thief, or a hero to find them and rewrite the future. Because a Valyrian blade never truly dies, it only sleeps, waiting for a hand strong enough to wake it. We have mapped the bloodline of the steel. One question remains: who truly holds the edge? Ownership, as we have seen, is a hallucination fueled by vanity. The blades that once defined the great houses are now scattered across a fractured landscape. Heartsbane, Longclaw, Oathkeeper. They are no longer stationary icons of a static history. They have become kinetic instruments of a changing world. They are held by those who earned them in the fire, not those who merely inherited them in the cradle. This is the ultimate irony of Valyrian steel. It was forged by an empire that collapsed under its own weight. Yet it remains the only thing that endures. Crowns are melted, citadels fall, great names are erased from the ledgers of the living. But the steel remains indifferent. It does not mourn for the Starks. It does not celebrate for the Lannisters. It only waits for the next conflict, the next hand, the next drop of blood to lubricate its path through time. The future of Westeros will not be decided by the legitimacy of a parchment. It will be decided by the geographic distribution of these lethal relics. To hold a Valyrian blade is to hold a fragment of the sun and a piece of the grave. It is a burden that alters the soul of the bearer, turning a man into a monument, or a boy into a butcher. As we conclude this lineage of violence, remember this: you do not own the blade. You are merely the person standing behind it at this moment. In the great game, power is a temporary grip on a hilt, and the only permanent legacy is the cold, unblinking edge of the steel itself.